ईश्वरः परमः कृष्णा सच्चिदानन्दविग्रह अनादिरादिर्गोविन्दा सर्वकारणकारणम् भोक्तारां यज्ञतपसाम् सर्वलोकमहेश्वरम् सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति. I place my salutations to the causeless cause of all and the rootless root of all. I render my prostrations at the feet of all the liberated masters. I sincerely place my salutations to the divinity which is innate and inherent in all of us. Thank you so much, Meditation and Study Circle, especially the directors, Mr. Vasudev and Mrs. Vani Vasudev, for giving me an opportunity to speak from this platform. And I have been nurtured and nourished for a very long time by Meditation and Study Circle. I remember my master, my mentor, my philosopher, Mr. S. Krishnamurti, and also Mrs. Rukmani Krishnamurti, for showing me the path with respect to delivering spiritual lectures and living spiritually. I thank the audience here for two reasons. Number one, my connect with the audience of Meditation and Study Circle goes back to 20 years. And whenever I give a lecture through this platform, it becomes so easy for me to get connected to you. Although it is an online lecture, I can certainly feel the connection between me and the audience. I thank you, people, because all of you are serious spiritual sadhaks, and you give enough strength to me and courage to me to speak what I really want to speak. With this, I like to begin the satsang today, but I request your pardon since I'm not so well for last couple of days. My voice is not as resonant as it used to be, and at times my voice may also slightly sink or become hoarse. Please bear with me. I have very bad congestion in my pharynx and larynx. I have developed a bit of laryngitis, so I am on medication. So please bear with my voice. So with this, let me begin this satsang. And as you all know very well, the title of the satsang is Enlightened Living. We all live, but are we living in a manner which can be called as enlightened living? No wonder all of us are living our lives which is majorly worldly and mundane. But there is a way of living which is probably higher living or living at a higher level of consciousness, what we called enlightened living. Are we really living in a manner which can be called as enlightened living? This is the question. I leave the question to you. Perhaps answer also is something which you need to probe into this question as you go through this satsang and try to explore the answer for it. I like to quote an anecdote from Zen Buddhism. At the outset, let us dwell a little in this particular anecdote, which can provide an insight to what is enlightened living. When a Zen master attained enlightenment, he wrote the following lines to celebrate his enlightenment. So what did he write? He wrote, "Oh wonderful marvel, I chop wood, I draw water from the well." This is what the monk wrote. After getting enlightened, he celebrated his enlightenment with these three lines. The first line says, "Oh wonderful marvel." The second line says, "I chop wood." And the third line says, "I draw water from the well." After enlightenment, nothing really changes. Please keep in mind, many of us think once we are enlightened, everything changes. How can everything change? The world remains as it is. People remain as they are. The philosophy remains as it is. And worldly affairs run as they are. So after enlightenment, nothing really changes. The tree is still a tree. People are just what they were. And so are you. So nothing changes. So are you. Means if you are enlightened, even you do not change. The only one difference is that you see things with a different eye. This is the only change that happens. You start seeing anything and everything with a different eye. That means to say, with a different perspective, with a different viewpoint, in a different angle. That's why we say the one difference is that you see things with a different eye. What is the difference? You are more detached from it all now. You are no more attached to this world as you were earlier. And your heart is full of wonder. You become more contemplative, and that produces a state of wonder. This is how children live, and they enter kingdom of God. So this is what is the anecdote. The anecdote ends with, whatever the monk wrote after enlightenment. But it has such a strong insight that we need to elucidate the inner meaning in it. The world remains same, people remain same, you are same, everything is same, but the way you see will totally change. And the change is that you are no more attached to anything as you used to be attached. You have developed a strong detachment to worldly things. That doesn't mean to say you denigrate the worldly things. That doesn't mean to say you deride the worldly things. No, definitely not. But you are not as passionate to worldly attractions as you used to be. You are not getting carried away by worldly things. Rather, you become more silent, more contemplative. Contemplative means meditating. Your whole day becomes more a meditative practice. Whatever you are doing, you do that in meditation. It is not meditation for few minutes or few hours when you get up in the morning or in the evening. It is that day-to-day life becomes a meditative practice. Whatever you are doing it with meditative contemplation. When your life becomes a meditation, naturally what happens? Your life becomes very profound. Life becomes a very deep life, or what you call deeper living. And everything is a wonder for you. You might have seen children. Children are so happy. They enjoy their life. And in the process, everything is a new experience for them. They look at it with wonder. When I was blowing a balloon, probably around 1 year back, my granddaughter was looking at it with so much wonder. Blowing a balloon by pumping air into it became a job which is so mechanical to me. But to my granddaughter, she was full of surprise and she watched it with so much wonder. Why is it so? Because for her, it is a new experience. An enlightened person is such a person, for him, everything is a new experience because he doesn't convert anything into a mechanical act. He becomes so aware of what is happening. He gets completely involved in it, and perhaps he becomes a child again. By becoming a child, he is entitled to enter the kingdom of God. Somebody asked Jesus Christ, who will enter the kingdom of God? Smilingly, Jesus showed a child and said, probably this child is able to enter the kingdom of God, because the mind of children are not contaminated, not polluted, not conditioned, and it is so transparent. And the mind is open to every new experience. So, an enlightened living is such a living where everything becomes a wonder. I remember Albert Einstein telling once, there are only two ways of living. The first way is you live as though everything is a wonder. The second way, you live as though nothing is a wonder. So you need to select. Everything is a wonder. Maybe the croaking of frog is a wonder. Your own breathing is a wonder. Your own mind is a wonder. An insect flying is also a wonder. Anything and everything in the world looks to be a wonder. That is how an enlightened person lives. Most of the saints, sages, and seers live their life like that because they are enlightened. Enlightened living is a joyous living. It's a very joyful living. An enlightened person is never bogged down by stress. Hardly you can see stress on the face of Buddha, on the face of Jesus, on the face of Guru Nanak, on the face of Ramana, on the face of Swami Vivekananda, because they are very cheerful. The most important hallmark of enlightened living is cheerfulness. At the feet of the master is a beautiful book, a small book which is written by Krishna Ji, Jiddu Krishnamurti. It says, cheerfulness must be the rule. It also says, bear your karma cheerfully. Whatever it may be, take it as an honor that suffering comes to you because the lords of karma can help you out, and if that has to work, bear it cheerfully and gladly. So each one of us are carrying our own karmas. Karma is nothing but the sanskaras, the good and the bad, that we are carrying from our previous lives. We need to expend our karmas which are given to us to be expended in this life. Joyfully expend it by simply grieving about our karmas, becoming sorrowful, and getting into a kind of misery will set in negative vibes all around us. In the process, spiritually we shrink. Not only we shrink, any person who comes into our contact will also shrink. The best way to deal with whatever life gives to you, good or bad, is to accept it equally and remain cheerful. When you cheerfully bear your karma, the angels of karma, or what we call karma devata, they will come and help you out in the process of expending your karma. That's why Ramana Maharshi said, cheerfulness is your natural characteristic. Don't search for it outside because it is within you. You are basically a speck of ananda. Your prajna or your consciousness is full of ananda. When you yourself is ananda, why do you want to search for it somewhere outside? Search for it inside. To be clear, why do you want to search for it? When it is inside, you need not search. You just look inside. It is available in plenty within you rather than without you. See, life as a rule does not run smoothly for anybody. Life is full of ups and downs. There are lots of trials and tribulations. Don't think the life of a very rich person runs smoothly. No, nobody is an exception. Every person has to expend the karmas that he has brought to this plane in this life. And karmas do not mean only good karmas. There are also bad karmas. ಸತ್ಕರ್ಮಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ದುಷ್ಕರ್ಮಗಳನ್ನು ಹೊತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿರ್ತೇವೆ. ಅವುಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಸನ್ನ ಚಿತ್ತರಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಯಾರೇ ತೊಂದರೆ ಕೊಟ್ರು, ಯಾರೇ ನೋವುಂಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಯಾರೇ ಅವಮಾನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅಪಮಾನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ನಿಂದಿಸಿದ್ರು, ಅವುಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ರಸನ್ನ ಚಿತ್ತರಾಗಿ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸುವ ಗುಣ ಇರಬೇಕು. You need to accept anything that is thrown at you by the world cheerfully. It does not mean you don't respond. Yes, you have to respond. But while you are responding, don't grieve. Don't grieve. In Mankutingmana Kagga, there's a wonderful Kagga by D.V. Gundappa. He says, ತನ್ನ ಶಿಲುಬೆಯ ತಾನೇ ಹೊತ್ತನಲ ಗುರು ಯೇಸು. ತನ್ನ ಶಿಲುಬೆಯ ತಾನೇ ಹೊತ್ತನಲ ಗುರು ಯೇಸು. Jesus had to carry his own cross. Isn't it? The cross was nothing but his karmas. He had to bear it. He had to carry it on top of Golgotha, where he was crucified. ತನ್ನ ಶಿಲುಬೆಯನ್ನ ತಾನೇ ಹೊತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ಅದೇ ಶಿಲುಬೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಶಿಲುಬೆಗೆ ಏರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಸಾಂಕೇತಿಕ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು? ನಿನ್ನ ಶವವನ್ನು ನೀನೇ ಹೊತ್ತು ಸಾಗಿಸಬೇಕೋ, ಅಣ್ಣ ಬಾ ತಮ್ಮ ಬಾ ಎಂದು ಅಳುವುದೇಕೋ, ನಿನ್ನೊಡಲೆ ಚಿತೆ ಲೋಕದ ತಂಟೆಗಳೇ ಸೌದೆ ಉರಿ, ಮಣ್ಣೇ ತರ್ಪಣ ನಿನಗೆ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ. ನಿನ್ನ ಶವವನ್ನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೆಣವನ್ನು, ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಣವನ್ನು ನೀನೇ ಹೊತ್ತು ಸಾಗಿಸಬೇಕು. ಹೆಣ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೇನು ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಕರ್ಮಸ್. ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಯುವರ್ ಕರ್ಮಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್. ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಣವನ್ನು ನೀನೇ ಹೊತ್ತು ಸಾಗಿಸಬೇಕು. ಅಣ್ಣ ಬಾ ತಮ್ಮ ಬಾ ಎಂದು ಅಳುವುದೇಕೋ. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಅಣ್ಣ, ಓ ಮೈ ಬ್ರದರ್, come and help me. Why are you yelling? Why are you crying? ಅಣ್ಣ ಬಾ ತಮ್ಮ ಬಾ ಎಂದು ಅಳುವುದೇಕೋ? ನಿನ್ನೊಡಲೆ ಚಿತೆ. Your heart is the crematorium. Your heart is the crematorium. ನಿನ್ನೊಡಲೆ ಚಿತೆ. ಲೋಕದ ತಂಟೆಗಳೇ ಸೌದೆ ಉರಿ. ಲೋಕದ ತಂಟೆಗಳೇ. This world gives you a lot of pain. At the same time, it also gives you a lot of happiness. Maybe the proportion in which happiness and sorrow comes may be different. It all depends upon the way you also respond and react. So, ಈ ಲೋಕದ ತಂಟೆಗಳೇ, ಲೋಕ ನಿನಗೆ ನೀಡುವಂತಹ ನಿಂದೆ, ಅಪಮಾನ, ಅಪಹಾಸ್ಯ, ಅವಮಾನ, ತೆಗಳಿಕೆ, ಅಪಕೀರ್ತಿ, all these are saude uri. Means it's nothing but the fire of the firewood. ಮಣ್ಣೇ ತರ್ಪಣ ನಿನಗೆ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ. This mud itself is something which gives you the tarpana. Tarpana means ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ? ತರ್ಪಣ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮಂತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ತರ್ಪಣ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಆ ತರ್ಪಣ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಸೂಕ್ತ ಸದ್ಗತಿ ದೊರಕತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಮಣ್ಣೇ ತರ್ಪಣ ನಿನಗೆ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ. Ultimately, death is the great equalizer for you. That's what is the meaning of it. So wonderfully it is written. Life is full of crises. They come one after the other. Sometimes they come all together. You might have seen in your lives only. Sometimes you keep telling, look, just now I somehow tided through one crisis of life, the other crisis cropped up. You keep shunning yourself. What is this? One after the other crisis is following. But sometimes what happens is multiple crises crops up at one point of time. Maybe for some time. Multiple crises. That is the nature of life. And you may also ask, sir, how in the midst of multiple crises? There are several kinds of crises. Economic crisis, crisis in relationship, crisis with respect to social contacts or social network, professional crisis, occupational crisis, and family crisis, crisis with multiple family members. So, I mean, several things are there. Several things. You might have heard of midlife crisis. In the middle part of the life, you need to face extraordinary crisis, isn't it? Divorce is a crisis. Loss of some people who are close to you is a crisis. And loss in your business is a big time crisis. And mega health issues are also crisis. In the midst of crisis, how can I be cheerful? This is a question which most of us ask. Sir, when karmas are incessantly striking my life, and when I'm going through multiple crises at one point of time, how can I be cheerful? It is easier to preach, to be cheerful, than to practice. Yes, I agree with you. It is easier to teach and easier to preach cheerfulness when compared to practicing it in day-to-day life. Life's crises are inevitable and inescapable, isn't it? You can't help for it. It is something that has followed you as a law, as a rule. But you can always choose the way you respond to them. You cannot stop, you cannot change your karmas. What cannot be changed? Why do you want to yell about it? What can be changed? What can be changed is the way I respond to it. That is in my hands. That is in my control. I can always decide the way I respond to my karma. Either you start grieving, groaning, shunning, retorting, protesting, resisting, and create a hell within you, or you allow the karma to have its effect on you, experience it completely, and still manage to remain equanimous and cheerful. Can we convert these karmas into our inner development? Every adversity in life is a blessing in disguise. We don't look at the positives of the adversities. We look at only how much painful and harmful is an adverse situation. Precisely, it is the same situation which is capable of bringing the best out of you. Isn't it? Why don't you look at it from another perspective? Another perspective is, let the best in me come out. Let me become more patient, more tolerant, and let me become more graceful. Let me become more silent. Let me become more responsive rather than reactive. Probably this is a circumstance which has come to me to teach these good lessons to me, and the lessons are life lessons. Why don't I think like that? See, that is a freedom that is given to you while responding to an adverse situation. Life is full of changes. Do you agree? Do you agree that life is full of changes? Definitely. Change is the very name of life. But for change, which is constant, everything else keeps changing. Change is the only constant, and everything else keeps changing. Isn't it? Look at the wonderful irony of the situation. What changes always creates so much of confusion, surprises, failures, pain, hardships. But can we transcend all these circumstances and rise above? There are two ways to face this life crisis. Take the crisis head on. While you're taking it head on, remain equanimous and understand that you are not the only person who is suffering in this world. There are so many people who are suffering. And everybody's parcel of suffering is different. Is different. When everyone is suffering, I'm not an exception. So let me pass through this. There is some lesson for me to learn. Let me keenly look at the lesson that I'm supposed to learn. And that is the process when you transcend. When you transcend. That is the process where you raise above the situation. Many times remaining silent is the best answer. Remaining silent from inside and silent from outside. Allow the situation to pass through. When strong breeze blows in a grassland, it is a tree which is erect that is going to fall, but not the grass. Not any blade of grass is going to break. However strong the wind, the grass will simply become flexible, bend down, and allow the blowing breeze to pass through. It doesn't do anything but for bending down. Whereas an erect tree is the one which is going to break down. So, in the midst of an adversity, an enlightened person remains silent, will become completely aware and experience what is happening in life. He will simply witness what is happening without reacting to anything. And please remember, God is always compassionate. He doesn't give so much burden that you cannot bear. Karma devatas also know that very well. They give you only so much suffering that you are capable of bearing. The threshold to bear the karmas differs from a person to person. Probably how much ever you can bear in this life, only so much would be given to you and to your account. They're compassionate. We unfortunately create our own misery and lose our peace of mind. In one of his talks, Krishnaji surprised his audience. Suddenly, Krishnaji was speaking to his audience, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and as he was speaking to them, suddenly he said, "Do you want to know my secret?" This was a question he asked. He asked this question to the audience. Do you want to know my secret? Certainly, everyone in the hall became silent and also became curious to know what Krishnaji is going to say. They were very alert. And Krishnaji said, look, this is my secret. I don't mind what happens. So this is what he said. You want to know my secret? My secret is, I don't mind what happens. Eckhart Tolle, a well-known author, also writes, when I don't mind what happens, what does it imply? It implies that I'm in perfect alignment with whatever that is going to happen. That's what is the meaning. When I say I don't mind what happens, what I mean to say is, I am in perfect alignment with whatever happens. I'm ready to accept it. Total acceptance. Total acceptance. This is what Krishna said. Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala heturbho mate sangostva karmani. What is the meaning of it? The meaning is, you have only the right to do karma, but you don't have the right to seek for the result of karma. The result of karma is something that some law decides about it. Who are you to actually bother about the karma phala. Karma phala is not your right. Doing karma is your right. So that's what JK also said. I don't mind what happens. But before what happens, you need to carry the presence of mind and decide what you want to do. Be totally present and decide what you want to do with a clear, transparent mind. And once you are done with that, deliver it. Planning and execution are the two stages. Plan it. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to speak, whatever you want to construct, whatever you want to execute, you plan. While planning, you be completely perfect. And while executing, just calmly execute and forget it. So this is what JK said. Karmanye vadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana. Ma karmaphala hetur bhumate sangostu karmani. The great teachings of Lord Krishna in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what you call Sankhya Yoga. Worst situations in life are the best situations in life. It just depends on the way you look at it. This is what I was telling in the beginning. For an enlightened person, the world remains same, the people remain same, everything that's happening in the world remains same, but he also remains same. Only one thing is changed. That is the way he looks at things. What is that change in his perspective? Now, he is not bothered about the results. He is more concerned about what he is doing. And after doing something, what happens is immaterial. That's how even in worst situations in life, there is so much for you to learn. They are the perfect situations in life where you can redesign and recreate your life. But the ignorance of man is such that he is highly reactive, he is impulsive, he is compulsive, and is spontaneous, and does not ask the question, what am I to learn from these situations? Let's just imagine you are walking on a street and somebody who is coming right in front of you will spit in front of you and few droplets fall on your body. What do? You give an ugly stare at him. You pull him to a verbal altercation. You scold him. You fire him. You abuse him. This is being reactive. What is it to be responsive? Just place your hand on his back and calmly, coolly tell, spitting on the road is not a good practice. I believe you understand me. Please think about it. If you think what I'm saying is right, please try to change and just walk away from there. Don't stand there. Walk away from there. Don't bother how he is going to react to you. You have done your job. You have responded to the situation. And as a good citizen, it is your duty to bring him into awareness that spitting on the road is not a good practice. But if you scold them, if you demean them, then you are becoming reactive, repulsive, impulsive. So there's a great lot of difference between responding to a situation and reacting to a situation. You react to a situation when you don't question, what am I to learn from these situations? What am I to learn? Patience, tolerance, not being on the edge and harping on the person. Isn't it? Instead, what we do is we will curse everybody in life. When certain things go wrong, we curse everybody. Everybody. See, enlightened living is a way of living where we have to commit ourselves to a new way of life. We need to change, and the change is from inside. And the change is of a comprehensive nature. It is a change happening at the very root level. A change in our ideology, our perspective, our perception, and very way of living. No progress is possible without a change. When we attend satsangs, we make a decision that we should change. But unfortunately, when the occasion arises, we are the first person to resist the change. This is the irony of human behavior. See, humans are like this. Humans are like this. They are so conditioned that when they come under a good influence, they decide, yes, I need to change. I cannot change anybody in this world. The best thing is I need to change myself. If I were to work on me changing, probably by now 50% to 60% the change would have happened in me. I think like that as the age advances. Excuse me. When I come in contact with a satsang, under the positive vibes, I decide to change. But the moment satsang is over and I am back into my routine, and I get an occasion where I am asked to change, I resist the change. This is a first order conflict. The conflict within myself. I want to change, but at the same time, I resist. One mind says change and another mind says resist. This is a first order conflict. I need to look at it. Will you become an agent of change? An enlightened person is the one who has successfully changed. Rather, he has successfully transformed and mutated. If so, if you want to change, watch yourself in action. Watch yourself in rest, in interaction, and consciously change. Life is short. We do not have so much time to keep doing errors, keep committing errors. Everything that you want to learn in life, you cannot learn by committing errors. There are so many lessons that you can learn by satsang, by keen observation, introspection, and by being in the company of great people. That's why Shankaracharya said, Mumukshatva is the most important sadhana. Mumukshatva means being in the company of great people who have done a lot of sadhana. If you can get a guru of that kind and be in the company of such a guru, you will definitely learn a lot without committing so many errors. The secret of peace lies in the right use of the senses mind, time, and money. God has given these resources to you. He has given a body, a mind which is capable of carrying emotions and thoughts, and He has given you time and probably money. Use or misuse of these are in your hands. One must discipline life and one must keep a watch on these things. How to expend your body or your mind or your money or your time for a larger purpose, a purpose larger than life. So often we are agitated by grief, discontent, anger, intolerance, etc. This leads to restlessness. Not many of us are edgy. Edgy means we are in the edge. Somebody from somewhere or some circumstance, little bit that will incite you, all the volcano in you will erupt outside. Isn't it? That is the way many of us live. We are peevish. We are short-tempered. We are ill-tempered. We break out. Agitation and restlessness certainly leads to hypertension, heart problems, diabetes, gastric ulcer, peptic ulcer, mucosal erosions, nerve disorders. Please understand, the physical body and your mind are so intricately connected to each other, and whatever happens in the mind, that is manifested in your physical body. If you are agitated in the mind, your whole body is agitated. If you are peaceful in the mind, your body is also completely peaceful. So, work on the mind. Mind is something which you need to work upon. An enlightened person is the one who actually will start becoming more and more aware about what is happening in the mind. Because physical body is nothing but the crystallized mind. Mind is the sublime physical body. Please understand the relationship. Physical body is the crystallized mind, and mind is the sublime physical body. So, when you are living in the physical plane and living in contact with your family, society, profession, occupation, etc., you need to keep watching what is happening in the mind. Continuously watch what is happening in the mind very keenly without taking any sides. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Our life is nothing else than our thoughts. Don't create room for negative thoughts, depressing emotions. Stand and raise above such situations which give rise to negativity. For that, you need to be vigilant. Watch the mind. That was a prime teaching of JK. That's what Jiddu Krishnamurti said. Watch your mind, because your mind can be a minefield or your mind can be a beautiful garden. Irrespective whether it's a minefield or a beautiful garden, you simply keep watching it. Be a witness to whatever is happening in the mind. Don't allow things to happen mechanically. Don't do any task mechanically. Keep observing mind constantly, continuously. That is awareness. That's what he called choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness. When you become aware, your consciousness expands. This awareness is nothing but keeping a witness on everything that's happening with respect to content of your mind. The mind has its own content. And this content in the mind keeps getting expressed through your physical body, either verbally or non-verbally or through your actions. So, if you observe the content of your mind watchfully, you become aware. And in the process, your mind becomes free of emotions and thoughts. This is perhaps the way an enlightened person lives. An enlightened person keeps a constant watch on what is happening in his mind, in his or her mind. Awareness is the key. Accept that the world is unfair. It doesn't require rocket science to understand that the world is unfair, isn't it? You have spent so many years living on this plane, isn't it? You might have observed life is many times an unfair game. Who said life is fair? As a high school student, you may be able to say life is unfair. Many times, many times. There's no doubt about it. Why do you expect that you be treated fairly? This world never treated any person fairly. Neither Lord Krishna nor Jesus Christ were treated fairly. You know the last days of Sri Krishna? The last days of Sri Krishna were such days when Lord Krishna was greatly abused. His own son abused him. He threw tantrums at him. The society deteriorated. Krishna was a silent witness to how the values got deteriorated during his last days. And he had to really pass through that particular stage where the things were declining. You know what happened to Jesus Christ? He was crucified alive. Alive. This world did not treat even great people, saints, sages, seers, and avatar purushs the way they were supposed to be treated. Just go back to Ramayana. How Lord Rama was treated and how much he was probably hurt when he heard some abuses of his own citizens with respect to Sita and his behavior towards Sita. People started abusing him, saying, "What kind of emperor you are? You have allowed a wife who was in the palace of another person, who was in the kingdom of another person." They did not let him free. See, this world never treated any Messiah fairly. You know how Krishna, Christ were all treated. So why you expect overly from this world? Don't expect too much from this world. So the formula is expect nothing, accept everything. So the first thing I told was awareness. The second thing that I'm speaking now is acceptance. When can you accept things the way they are? When you don't expect anything. Whatever comes to you, you are ready to accept. When you carry some expectation in your mind, and if that doesn't happen, then you are disillusioned. Then your temper rages. Then you break down or break out. When you don't expect anything and keep doing what you are supposed to do, just abiding to karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, where comes rejection? You are going to accept everything. You are not an exception. Okay, when Krishna, Christ, and all were not exceptions, how can you be an exception? You are not the only one who is suffering. Millions of people are suffering. That is precisely the reason why Lord Buddha said, life is full of sorrow and desire is the root cause of sorrow. When we expect something, we are desirous. When we are desirous, and if something doesn't happen as per our desire, we get disappointed and we become sorrowful. That's why Lord Buddha said, life is full of suffering. And every suffering arises because of sorrow. Every sorrow arises because of desire. Should we reduce our desires consciously? Yes, probably. That is a great panacea for plenty of our problems. That's why right in the beginning of this lecture, I said, once a person is enlightened, nothing really changes, but only one thing what changes is the way he looks at everything in life. He'll remain detached. When he is remaining detached, he's not expecting much. When he is not expecting much, whatever happens is okay for him. So, please understand, being continuously aware, watching the mind and the mischiefs played in the mind, and then working on desires and becoming less desirous, you naturally get into a mode of acceptance. And when you start accepting everything, a great change occurs inside. But we try to keep fight till the end. Many people say life is a great battle. No, life is not a battle. Life becomes a battle when you are in the fighting mode. If you understand, life is not to battle out. Life is something which needs to be watched carefully. So many things happen. You can't change the world, it is so difficult. That's why there is a wonderful serenity prayer which says, "O Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and wisdom to know the difference." This is the serenity prayer. This prayer wonderfully says, God, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. There are so many things in this world which I cannot change. Yes, accept. And there are certain things which you can change. Which are the things you can change? Your own characters, your own attributes, your own issues you can change. So give me the courage to change the things that I can change. And wisdom to know the difference. Wisdom to know the difference. What I cannot change, keep that aside. What I can change, work upon. And an enlightened person works in that particular mode. I just like to give an anecdote before I end this presentation. A man was very proud of his beautiful lawn. He had a wonderful lawn, a green lawn. He was very proud of that. Suddenly, he noticed on a day that his lawn was covered by a large crop of dandelions. Crop of dandelions. Dandelions means they're all weeds. Weeds means they are bad saplings. They don't allow the good crop to grow. So suddenly he noticed on a day that his lawn is completely covered by a large crop of dandelions. He tried every method he knew. He tried every method he knew to destroy the weeds. But still they plagued his lawn. He tried many methods, maybe pesticide, insecticide, or plucking out the weeds. Everything he tried, but nothing gave him the results. Finally, he wrote to the Department of Agriculture, local Department of Agriculture. In the letter, in detail, he enumerated what all he tried doing to get rid of the problem of these weeds. And despite all his attempts, they have just come back. And none of his methods yielded positive results. He sent the letter to the local department, agriculture department, and he was waiting for the reply. He thought some suggestion may come or somebody may walk into his house and go through the lawn and give some remedy to it. But surprisingly, after some time, he got a letter back from agriculture department. And in the letter, there was only one sentence. Because in the letter he wrote, he had asked a question. What shall I do now? I tried so many methods. What shall I do now? Was the question asked by him. And the agriculture department had a one-liner as answer. And the answer was, the reply was, we suggest you learn to love them. We suggest you learn to love them. So agriculture department was convinced that all the methods that he has tried has not given the yield, and there are no other methods as per their knowledge. They said something which cannot be done, which cannot be remedied. What has to be done? You have to live with them. How do you live with them? Not shunning them, cursing them, scolding them. Start loving them. So that is the suggestion they gave. We suggest you learn to love them. And the owner of the house, excuse me, learned to love them. Of course, his lawn was completely spoiled, but his garden became very attractive. So awareness leads to acceptance. When your acceptance is total, it transforms to surrender. What is it to surrender? What do we mean by surrender? It's a state of mind. It is complete submission to the will of God. When you cannot do anything, or when you tried doing everything and everything failed, then what is the only thing which is left? At the feet of the Lord, just place your petition. O Lord, I am submitting myself. Kaya manasa vacha. I am completely surrendering to you. And it is left to you. Whatever you decide, let that happen. But I have done everything what I'm supposed to do. That's what is called surrender. Surrender does not happen straight away, and it should not happen also. Because you have the karma to do. do everything from your side, and then surrender to the will of God. This is what Jesus did. On the cross, what did he do? He said, not mine, but thy will be done. Not my will be done. It is your will that is be done. He completely surrendered. And that's precisely the moment where his Father lifted him up. Lifted him up. So surrender is a third important step. So the first one is awareness. Second one is acceptance. Third one is surrender. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. This is a shloka from the last chapter, 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which says, leave everything else to me and surrender to me. Surrender happens when it is supposed to happen, on its own. And surrender as such is a elaborate topic to be taken for satsang. Probably sometime in the future, I'll plan to have an entire session on surrender. And at this point of time, I again like to emphasize, an enlightened person is totally aware, awareness, and totally in acceptance, accepting anything and everything that happens in life, and surrenders his will to the God's will, and live a very, very relaxed life. With this, I complete my satsang. Thank you very much for patient listening.